Hey, it's me. Welcome to my channel, The Way What Is Truth. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Now, this is a video that I've been meaning to do for quite some time, and it's about this phenomenon. It's like a social phenomenon known as the Hikikomori. These are socially isolated people. We're talking about societal dropouts here. Sometimes it's the pressure of society that gets in the way, so they drop out of society. But it really began in the 1990s in Japan. Now, this is a thought that I would like to give anyone watching this video right now. Although this modern term, the Hikikomori, has been with us since the 1990s and possibly earlier, if you know better than me in that regard, then drop a comment down below. And definitely, if you know more than me about the Hikikomori phenomenon, or you've got just something you want to add to what I'm saying, then definitely leave a comment down below. Okay. Now, from my understanding, that it was caused by some sort of financial crash in Japan in the 1990s, and this is a worldwide phenomenon. Okay, now what I was going to say earlier on is this. Although the modern term Hikikomori has been around at least from the 1990s, I should think, for thousands of years, this behaviour within society must have been going on. I mean, we all know about hermits, right? But that's different because that's usually for spiritual and religious purposes. But this kind of behaviour is really nothing new. But of course, now in this modern day and age in Japan, we're seeing it now more than ever. And other countries have been affected as well. In fact, I've written them down right here. This phenomenon, although it wouldn't at all surprise me if it's happening in more countries than just what I've listed here. Okay, but yes, it's happening in the USA, China, this country, the UK, where I am now, Morocco, India, South Korea, France and Spain, just to prove to you that it's not just happening in Japan, it's happening in many other countries around the world, and it may increase as time goes on. So that just give you an idea how many different other countries are being affected by this, right? But yes, it's definitely Japan where this originated from, and of course there's lots of anime based around the Hikikomori, and when I think of the Hikikomori, I usually conjure up images of a man. Although I believe it affects more men than women. If I'm wrong, then correct me down below. But as far as I'm aware, it affects far more men than it does women. Okay, and yeah, I just conjure up images of like food packets, cartons, anime stacked up to the ceiling. A scruffy bed, and these people need to be prayed for. This is the crux of the matter here. They need prayer. So I encourage anyone who's watching this video right now, before I go any further, to pray for the Hikikomori, because it's no fun, you know, years and years of your life just ebbing away, doing nothing, shut up in a room, perhaps living with an auntie or an uncle or a grandma or a parent. You know, there are Hikikomori. There are people that remain Hikikomori well into their 40s and even beyond. Some of them get help, but a lot of them don't get help, okay? So these people definitely need to be prayed for. So I encourage everyone in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ to pray right now for this entire generation of Hikikomori globally, and every generation of Hikikomori to come throughout the whole past, present and future of their lives, to be helped by God's Holy Spirit and his loyal, faithful angels, for them to have their lives turned around. And don't forget that Japan is not a predominantly Christian country. It's a country that has it's got next to no churches as we know of them, but they have front living rooms sometimes that they use as churches. So yeah, I mean, it's not a Christian country by any means. So right, I'm going to read this article here to shed some more light onto this phenomenon. And it's something that's been on my mind for quite some time. It's definitely something that I want to raise awareness about, and I need to get this out there right now, today. So yes, Hikikomori, understanding the people who choose to live in extreme isolation. Now this article was written, well, by a number of people. A guy called Mackie Ruxby of the University of Glasgow, Hamish J. MacLeod, I think, or MacLeod, University of Glasgow, and a guy called Tadaki Furashi, Nagoya, or is that Nagoya? University. He's almost definitely Japanese, okay? And this article was published on October the 29th, 2020 at 1:51 p.m. General Means time, just so you know. Right, so it starts off like this. It's pretty normal to sometimes feel like you want to hide away from the stresses and pressures of the outside world. In fact, short-lived periods of withdrawal can reduce acute stress responses and can help us overcome illness and exhaustion. Of course, there are always times in life where we need to just shut the world out. The world has become a rat race after all. It's certainly something that I don't want to have anything to do with myself. Periods of solace and isolation can also help with important phases of development, such as exploring one's identity during adolescence. Before I go any further with this article, I'd just like to say something here. Although I can't really describe myself as a Hikikomori, but I can relate to them because a lot of my life I've suffered with a lot of loneliness, a lot of depression, and I can relate to them on so many levels. In fact, at times in my life I felt like a glorified Hikikomori, if that makes sense. Obviously my life isn't as extreme as that, but wait a second, my cat has just started meowing. I'll tell you what I'll do. Wait a sec. Hello, boy. Yeah. Oh, boy. There he is. Here's Sylvester. I don't think he really wants to be on the camera. He's all wet through. There we are. He's had his cameo appearance. Now then, boy. Bear with me. I do apologise. I'm just going to let him out. What, boy, what are you doing? You know what, I'm just going to leave him in the kitchen. I need to get on with this video, so he'll be fine. He's just come in. Yeah, as I was saying, I can relate to the Hikikomori because I felt a lot of loneliness in my own life. I mean, for the vast majority of my life, from my late teens to now, really, I've basically lived on my own with virtually no friends all these years. I only had one 6-month relationship at the age of 34. So I know how it feels to be lonely better than the vast majority of people. Anyway, it goes on to say this, but some people don't reemerge from natural periods of isolation. Instead, they show extreme and persistent withdrawal lasting for decades. This is why I'm doing this video, because it's a major problem. Definitely pray. Causing distress to themselves and those who care and support them. Imagine the emotional and the mental and the physical toll that it takes on these individuals, whether they're uncles, aunties, grandmas, parents, and so on and so forth. Even friends, I should imagine, take Hikikomori in, because they obviously don't go to work. They have no means of really looking after themselves. Some of them get help from the equivalent of their social workers. I believe there are social workers who kind of specialise in the Hikikomori, and they go out of them and have a meal with them. I mean, Japan is a place of many things. It's a place of fake girlfriends. You can buy a girlfriend. You can actually buy a girlfriend experience. Obviously, it wouldn't be a real girlfriend, just someone who's paid to play out that role. I don't really agree with it. You can even pay for family. You can even buy parents over there. Obviously, it's fake parents, but it gives you like a parent, brother, sister, and so on and so forth experience. It's a crazy country, Japan. I do like Japan, actually. I'm interested because they are on the technological edge, you know. I absolutely love their toilets. Anyway, without further ado, in fact, let me read out from the start. But some people don't reemerge from natural periods of isolation. Instead, they show extreme and persistent withdrawal lasting for decades, causing distress to themselves and those who care and support them. Pray for those who are also looking after the Hikikomori. They need it. In Japan, this pattern of behaviour is so common it's known as Hikikomori. Problems with extreme social withdrawal in Japanese youth first gained attention during the 1990s. This is the period when Japan endured an economic ice age. I did tell you about that earlier on, which prevented many young people from achieving their goals. Many responded by hiding away to conceal the shame they felt. For some, they didn't re-emerge. The term hikikomori derived from the verb hiki, to withdraw, and komori, to be inside. So it basically means to withdraw inside. Yeah? Was coined in 1998 by Japanese psychiatrist Professor Tamaki Saito. I think that's Tamaki Saito. Sato chose the term to describe the many young people who he saw who didn't fit criteria for mental health diagnosis but were nonetheless in a state of extreme distressing withdrawal. Now, if there are any more Japanese words in this article, you have to excuse me, because the Japanese do not pronounce words with a rhythm like the English and the West do. They say words in a very short, machine gun-like way. Each letter is pronounced for the same amount of time. So I'm trying to imagine how a Japanese person might say the word hikikomori. They wouldn't say like hikikomori because there's like a rhythm there. They would say it like, I don't know, it's difficult to pronounce it like the way they do. They would pronounce it shorter and faster anyway. It's like the word wasabi. We would say wasabi, wasabi, whilst they would say it wasabi, wasabi. I know that probably sounds absolutely ridiculous, but they say each letter for the same amount of time anyway. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so hikikomori is currently viewed as a socio-cultural mental health phenomenon. That's a bit of a mouthful. Rather than a distinct mental illness, given at least 1.2% of the population, around 1 million, are affected. Hikikomori is a significant social and health problem. Hikikomori is also increasingly being identified in other countries. The term is now used across the world to describe anyone who fits the criteria. So this applies to anyone, even people living like that within the United Kingdom will be called a hikikomori now. There are several core features of hikikomori. This includes the affected person being physically isolated in their home for at least 6 months, cut off from meaningful social relationships. I've experienced that most of my life, meaningful social relationships, with significant distress and functional impairment. Yeah, I've had my depression, but no significant distress or functional impairment. I haven't had that. Such as avoiding tasks where they might have to interact with someone or deal with basic self-care needs. That's another area which I obviously don't struggle with. Alongside physical isolation, hikikomori people show an extreme psychological detachment from the social world. Places where active social interaction is expected, such as school or work, becomes impossible for the person. Again, that's another area where I can't compare myself to them. They remain socially disconnected from those around them, whether they are outside their house or not. While some hikikomori people, called sotokomori, can manage some activities outside, they will rarely interact with people. Some may use the internet as a window on the world, but they won't interact with others. Okay, now it goes on to talk about the shame and the trauma surrounding it as well, because try to imagine the shame of this, being a dropout in Japan. Japan is a country which places emphasis on success, a lot of success and social status, okay? People get judged over there even for not getting married. You know, if someone has, if a lady, for example, hasn't found someone by the age of 35, let's say, they can be criticised by their parents and like pressured into it. That's the kind of culture it is. Anyway, shame and trauma. Research shows traumatic experiences of shame and defeat are commonly reported as triggers across cultures, such as failing important exams or not securing a cherished job. It's possible that Japan's cultural value system may make this population more vulnerable due to the pressure for collective uniformity and the fear of social shame. There's something I'd like to add to that. It's that in Japan, the emphasis is on being a part of the group. If I remember correctly, it's like the social culture over there is to be like a team player. You've got to go along with what the others are doing and all work as a team and all have one mindset. That's the kind of emphasis they put over there. If I'm wrong, then correct me down below, but I'm sure that's the case. Anyway, yeah, so, and the fear of social shame. Hikikomori people avoid traumatization by choosing to opt out of the normal pathway set out from them by society, because how else can they do it? By avoiding social interaction altogether. And of course, can you imagine the effect it will have on their self-esteem and their confidence? They live in their own little bubble, these people. Now, this is interesting. Our work on the French hikikomori population and those from other populations show that although many wish society would forget them, They cannot and will not forget the world they left behind. Instead, they passively observe the world via online gaming and social media in a form of social death. Wow. Remember, pray for these people. Experts are also beginning to explore Hikikomori's possible connection with autism. Now, I very much doubt that everyone who could be described as a Hikikomori will have autism, but I should imagine a fair few of them do. Depression, obviously, that goes without saying. Social anxiety, yes, if someone has social anxiety, they are more likely to become a Hikikomori. They're more likely to isolate themselves from the world, either by staying most of the time in their bedrooms or whatever it may be. And agoraphobia, that's very, very interesting. So let me just read that again. Experts are also beginning to explore Hikikomori's possible connection with autism, depression, social anxiety, and agoraphobia. So definitely pray for those with autism. Again, this entire generation and every generation to come until God's return. Depression, that goes without saying. Why not pray for people who have got depression? Social anxiety and agoraphobia, this all ties in with it nicely in a neat little bundle. And I should imagine it covers other mental health issues as well that possibly have not been mentioned there. Not only does a Hikikomori person lose many years of their life in isolation, the condition also affects their family. Of course it does. Imagine the mental, the physical and the emotional toll it takes on family members and friends and so on and so forth. Typically, Japanese parents of Hikikomori people dedicate years to ensure their child's basic living needs are met. This means there are seldom natural triggers to push them to get help. In other words, if they get stuck in a rut. Mental health, as well as educational and social care services, are too often focused on responding to more dramatic or visible problems. This leaves families feeling stuck and isolated. So it sounds like it's just a minority of families that are getting the real help that they need in Japan, perhaps in other countries too. As global recognition of Hikikomori increases, the prevalence of the condition is likely to rise, like what I said earlier on. In turn, it will highlight the need for better treatment options. Currently, treatments focus on physical activity, rebuilding the capacity for social interaction, and taking a gradual approach to re-engaging with work or study. Therapies that involve the whole family are also being tested. Recovery may also involve helping Hikikomori people find ways of expressing their abilities and talents in a socially acceptable way. Yes, so let's not forget that a lot of these Hikikomori, many of them must be very, very clever. There must be Hikikomori out there who are geniuses, in fact. I'm pretty sure that the majority of Hikikomori, you won't be able to describe them as being geniuses. But yeah, there's bound to be some pretty clever Hikikomori out there. I should imagine that a lot of them are good at coding and like computer and IT and stuff like that. And don't forget, because of their social isolation, they've had plenty of time to read books, to look things up on the internet. Yeah. For example, the Japanese artist Atsushi Watanabe, Atsui, sorry, I think you pronounce it like this. Atsui Watanabe used art and social activism to help his recovery from Hikikomori. That's great, isn't it? The very nature of Hikikomori means that reaching out for help is very unlikely. And perhaps this lifestyle choice could be seen as acceptable because of COVID-19, especially given many of us are now working from home and are socialising using the internet. Fear of infection, job loss and social disruption due to lockdown rules could also add to the risk of persistent social withdrawal and detachment for many people. Yes, indeed, many people in the UK, where I am, for example, would have had their first dose of the Hikikomori lifestyle during lockdown. Yes, that's a very, very interesting point. Yeah, if anyone wants to talk about their lockdown experiences during COVID-19 and indeed what they think to the Hikikomori phenomenon, and if you've got anything to add, again, I ask you to leave a comment down below. Now, our view is that we need to be aware of a potential rise in extreme and persistent social withdrawal during the pandemic. Many young people may currently be feeling hopeless and may not see prospects for a new beginning, of course, because this article was was written, what was it, 2019 or 2020? I'm going to have to look it up in a second. So this article was done during the midst of COVID-19 and the whole lockdown thing. Let's not forget that. Anyway, many young people may currently be feeling hopeless and may not see prospects for a new beginning and may feel unable to reach their goals. Those that may have lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic may also detach to avoid further shame and suffering. An increase in severe and persistent withdrawal will go unnoticed unless we ensure that everyone can get the help they need to stay connected with society. And the article ends there. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that I've at least done something to increase awareness of this. Okay, yes, it was written in the year 2020. This article was, so that's why they mentioned the lockdown and everything. Yeah. So I don't think there's much else I can really add to this. Definitely, I'd encourage anyone who's watching this video to look up the Hikikomori phenomenon yourself. And definitely do your own research about this, okay? There's probably videos out there that are far better than mine, or perhaps a little bit more entertaining, I don't know, that are talking about the Hikikomori phenomenon. Okay, so I hope and pray that you're all well. If there's anything you ever want to talk to me about, whatever you want to chat about, you want me to pray about something, it could be something that's unrelated to the topic of this video, leave a comment down below, message me. Remember, you can find me. I've never mentioned this before in any of my videos, but you can find me on Facebook. If you go to my About section on my YouTube channel, you'll see the name you have to type in to find me on Facebook anyway. So yes, definitely, I'll say it one more time, pray for the Hikikomori, because imagine it can't be any fun being isolated from society. It's just common sense. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye and take care.